Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Welcome to North Star Community. Always glad to be here. Let me start with reading 2 Corinthians. This is Paul writing. And now, isn't it wonderful all the ways in which this distress has goaded you closer to God? I mean, we talk about this all the time in North Star. You're more alive, more concerned, more sensitive, more reverent, more human, more passionate, more responsible. Looked at from any angle, you've come out of this with purity of heart. And that is what I was hoping for in the first place when I wrote the letter. My primary concern was not for the one who did the wrong, or even the one who wronged, but for you, that you would realize and act upon the deep, deep ties between us before God. That's what happened, and we felt just great. That's a great scripture I did to think about. It just captures so much of what we talk about with our North Star activities and just building those community and seeing ourselves as okay, not perfect, but okay. This is St. Augustine, who was one of the early Christian thinkers, leaders, writers, probably from the 3rd century. He writes, "My soul is like a house, small for you to enter, but I pray you to enlarge it. It is in ruins, but I ask you to remake it. It contains much that you will not be pleased to see. This I know and do not hide." What a perfect quote for us today. You know, we've been talking about toxic shame and how destructive it is in our lives, and really how toxic shame is what drives our addictions. The put downs, the inner critic, the parent tapes, whatever words we want to use, where we just are unmerciful to ourselves. We just cannot forgive ourselves. We just cannot not think about all the things we've done and how we see ourselves as inadequate, as broken, as bad, as deceitful, whatever words we use. And the bottom line is we haven't behaved all the time. We're addicted. That's what's happened. But we're making it. We're getting there. We're going to turn all this shame back into helping us be there for others, be more forgiving for ourselves. But toxic shame drives addiction. And again, always just remind us again, addiction is, we look at our substances, compulsive behaviors, and people. And none of them are good. We don't want to be addicted. Trust me, we all know that. So we've been talking about, over the past couple weeks, we've talked about what toxic shame is. We've talked about limits, how we live with too many limits and keeps us down and out, and not living life fully, not living with purpose, just surviving. Or we live limitless and we live recklessly, destructively, creating all sorts of issues. And neither one is what we want. We don't want to live with too many limits. We want to live limitless, because it's just another sign of how much self-hatred, self-loathing we have for ourselves. And it just doesn't work. So when you're out there, rock climbing with no supports, or driving 900 miles an hour, or drinking too much and saying you can handle this, or you're hiding in your house, isolating, all these, none of them work. And it's not really you. And a lot of that we do out of anger, or we do it out of self-anger at ourselves or anger at others. And none of it works. We know that. But it's good for us to understand that, because we have to accept that we're flawed, and that we're going to make mistakes, and we still will be loved. We have to accept that God's grace for us is way bigger than anything we've done. One of the things that I've seen at North Star and our support groups is we're growing in some ways together. We're seeing people doing better. We're seeing people letting the addictive stuff be less powerful, starting to embrace other people in the group, because we're not selling each other anything. We're not there telling everybody what to do. We're there supporting, listening, learning, loving, all those things. And we try to emphasize more and more living with gratitude, being grateful for the things that's against us, for grateful for the bad things that's happened in our life, because we can't turn the clock back. So the only thing we can do is move forward, take those tough past experiences that create so much trauma in us and abandonment, and turn it into a good thing. And I know if you're early in this, you're like, it makes you mad to hear that. But there are people in the group now who have been at this for a couple of years. I don't even care about the time part, but they've been at it a while, and they're starting to acknowledge that, yes, I can take my past traumas, I can take my past pain and turn it into a gift. I know that's hard. I know it's hard if you're new at this. But the self-punish, this is Russell Brand talking. I don't know if you know who he is, but a comedian, actor who's now become a major podcaster and turned his life and will over to God. So it's a good story. This is him writing. The self-punishment you endure when you dwell in feelings of guilt and shame can lead to a downward spiral of negative thinking. Don't we know that one? This type of thought process is isolating and unproductive, and it will not end unless you put an end to it. You got to give it people. You got to let go of your perfectionism. Though you might feel like you deserve to feel shame for your actions, punishing yourself does not help the people you may have hurt, nor does it help yourself for that matter. So all the shaming and all the things we do doesn't help. So he writes, no amount of self-punishment will ever feel like enough, and you will get caught up in the cycle of reliving bad memories and engaging in negative self-talk. Toxic shame, right? So ultimately, shame-based thinking is self-destructive. It eats away at your self-worth and anxiety and depression. And you, as you probably know already, feeling depressed and bad about yourself is a common trigger for using or relapsing. So, great quote there. So, I hope that as I've been talking over the past few weeks, if you watched or if you've been in meetings or if you're hearing this, that we can build a case that toxic shame is very destructive and really it's not real. Toxic shame is not real. Think about how many of us, if you're in our group, but how many of us are how you always talk about how you never feel like you fit in. That's because you were coming from family systems that were destructive, they were toxic, they were secretive, they were shame-based themselves, and you knew things weren't right. You thought everybody else had it together, and you didn't, and all this stuff was going on. And so it becomes shame. It gets us to feel inadequate about ourselves, and it just takes over, and it becomes self-centered in our emotions. We see the bad in us, and we ignore the good in us. That's hard to make it when you're doing that. In fact, sometimes I know even myself coming out from toxic shame is that when I say good things about myself, or I start thinking I'm doing okay, there's this little voice that says you can't do that. You're prideful. You're arrogant. You're bragging. Blah blah blah. Isn't that ridiculous? Because we certainly can sit around and beat up on ourselves, but we start saying good things about ourselves, it becomes kind of a threat to us. And you have to understand that. This is toxic shame is a system that gets in us. It's the deep core of us, and we have to see it. We have to become aware of it, and we have to then start to do things to limit it. So when we can start overcoming some of the shame, we can really start to gain a real sense of what it is to be human. We can gain a sense of who we are, and we see other people realistically too. And that's one of the great, it's probably one of the top benefits of recovery, is you come to be more accurate in your judgment. Well, judgment's not the word, in your assessment of others. One of the things that takes so much courage in addiction recovery is getting toxic people out of our lives. And I want to make sure you hear me say this again. That's not a judgmental, prideful statement, because we're probably toxic to them too. But there are just certain people whose their pain, their hurts, and ours match up too good, and it becomes a problem. Sometimes we just need to get away from other people who experience what we're experiencing. Or some people, because we don't like ourselves, we put ourselves in the paths of people who don't care about us, use us, all those things. All these kind of things happen. And isn't it great when we can start seeing other people more accurately? Then we don't have to hide from everybody. We can put ourselves out there and we can figure out if the right people in our lives and the ones that we don't want are out of them. But when we're filled with toxic shame, we are so destructive in relationships. But we see other people accurately, flaws and all, and we become more comfortable with being imperfect and being ourselves. Wouldn't that be great? So let's think about healthy shame for a minute. Healthy shame means being as flawed and perfect as everyone else. That's what's so important here. So being unable to accept imperfection and flaws is the hallmark of toxic shame, right? We cannot do that. But we have to think about our secrets. What are those things that we keep away from everyone else is a hint to us? Secrets keeping it secret is what gives toxic shame power over us. Some of the secrets carry life-destroying power. I mean, particularly when we're addicted with substances and we know it's destructive, but we don't want to stop, or we can't stop, and we don't want to feel the pain in our lives. So we do all sorts of things. We're so destructive. We set up things to make things hurt us and all those things. Connor McDougall on his book writes, having a dirty little secret leads to lying, closing yourself off, unable to be truly yourself, or to let people in, and social isolation, leading to more toxic shame. Most importantly, it means you can never heal the toxic shame. Usually, the bigger the secret, the more you need to tell someone. Humble yourself. That is the cure. Oh my goodness. How many of us, if we would have just told somebody about something, we could have had so much less destruction. Toxic shame tells us we're way more flawed, more destructive, more crazy, whatever, than everyone else, when the fact is we're probably not. Now, granted, us in the addiction world of recovery, we've done a lot of things. We've done a lot of destruction. We probably do have things we're pretty ashamed of. But living with it, carrying it with us, hiding it, and if we're doing stuff that's ongoing, still destructive, tell somebody. You don't have to keep doing this. That's why you got to keep remembering. Shame is a self-centered, greedy emotion that wants to keep you down and out so that you'll be destructive and not do anything. So what happens if we do this? What happens if we embrace powerlessness? We will find freedom from it. When we start seeing that when we're admitting that we're imperfect and we never will be perfect, it means admitting we're flawed. It means that we're just like every other human being. By living our lives in that humbled state, we learn that actually there's nothing painful about it. Our fears about not being good enough and being imperfect are completely irrational. We start to break down our associations between imperfection, inadequacy, and pain. After spending some time like this, we no longer need to fear the paralyzing doubts of self-adequacy. I mean, think about it. So let's do this again. The gift of powerlessness. By admitting powerlessness, we have nothing left to fear. I mean, that's true if you think about it. We sit around thinking, oh, if I'm not perfect, if I'm not everything to everybody, if I don't give myself up, nobody's going to love me, to I'm powerless. I can't do anything about anybody else but myself. Even that I can't do very good, but I can turn my life and will over to God. I can go to support groups to help me because I'm powerless. That is healthy, right? We're no longer trying to uphold false standards or maintain false images. Wouldn't that be great if we could just come in and say, I'm broken, help, instead of, I'm doing okay. We don't want anybody, nobody know too much. We no longer are trying to control and be perfect. Ooh, wouldn't that be nice? We stop trying to justify our actions and create excuses. We embrace healthy human shame and admit that we are not perfect. I don't know how to say it. We are humble to the core And this means that we have nothing left to lose and thus nothing left to fear. By feeling the pain we're trying to avoid, we free ourselves from the menacing grasp of all the actions we've done. Doesn't it sound, it just feels good to hear this, doesn't it? To let go, to be powerless, to turn our life and will over to God, let Him take over, listen, put ourselves around other people in recovery so that we can build our lives and get them back. Think about with toxic shame, small problems are huge problems. What did we do wrong? What do we create now? Well, those people treat me bad, but they must know what they're doing, or I deserve it. All these things, if we just would let go and just say, you know what, I'm all messed up. Help. And that's really what step one is. Going from pre-step one to step one is the biggest step we're ever going to take in our lives if we're addicted. Just letting go. Seeing ourselves as powerless. My life became unmanageable. My life's out of control. I have to turn my life and will over to God. That's the only chance I have to make it. If you're not there with God, higher power. But I hope that we here at North Star see Jesus Christ as our higher power. So how about it? So what if we do accept we're imperfect? What if we accept we're powerless? And maybe even a little bit worthless? We don't know everything about everything. We've done some dumb things in our lives. We've done hurtful things in our lives. We've been hurt in our lives. Just to say, okay, that's what it is. And now I can move forward without being perfect, but trying to get better, trying to feel better about my life. Having self-compassion, just forgive yourself once in a while. It's not that hard. Living in the present. Face your shame. Face all these things. Accept you're addicted. Accept things are out of control with you. Dr. Anna Lemke, in her book Dopamine Nation, was talking about her addiction to erotic literature. I know it sounds kind of like an odd one, but trust me, we're all addicted to something. But I really admire her courage. She's a highly respected PhD author, lecturer from Stanford University. And what she said, I think it's a good quote. She goes, I began to see that I didn't need to continually distract myself from the present moment, that I could live in it and tolerate it and maybe even something more. That's what we're after. Not hiding ourselves in our toxic shame, not being miserable, not trying to be fearful of the future and beating ourselves up for the past, but just parking ourselves in the moment and being okay and enjoying the moment. That's not saying we don't do things we need to for the future. And we certainly need to go back as we know and do the things we need to for our past that we need to do. But we need to move. We need to stay here in the present too and just be there. Enjoy things. There's just so much here for us to think about. But the trick here is that we stop running away from our painful emotions. Now, I would tell you that's hard to do by yourself. You need to get in support groups where people are there and know what you've gone through, because they probably have too. It always amazes me how someone will come to North Star new and they're so hurting and they have legitimate painful emotions. And then they get in the group and they start telling their story, and 3 other people know that story with very similar circumstances. And it's such a relief when they hear that, because then they're not alone and they're not crazy and all those things. So we have to stop running away from our painful emotions, and we have to start figuring out ways to tolerate them. When we're able to do that, our life takes on a new, rich, and a rich and meaningful life. The pain is still there, right? We're never gonna be happy about what happened to us, but somehow we can transform it. We can take our suffering and turn it into a gift. And I know it's hard to hear it sometimes, but that's what we can do. And again, like we keep talking about, is that our choice is very simple. We can let trauma destroy us. It can make us mean, evil, addicted, all those things. Or we can turn it into a gift. A gift that helps us to be more empathetic for others, to be empathetic and forgiving to ourselves, to be empathetic and forgiving to the people that hurt us, particularly family members for many of us, or people we should have been able to trust. And it gives us a chance to get our lives back and to trust ourselves, and give us the chance to move forward and to live. I think about Job. For you to know, the story of Job it's a hard book, and it's hard to understand sometimes. But Job has lost everything, every material. He was a wealthy guy, successful, spiritual man. He did a lot of things right, and God allowed Satan to wreak havoc, and he lost everything: kids, family, materials, everything. And it was a real battle for him not to lose his spiritual. And so his very helpful wife says, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." Job replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In this, Job did not sin. I think that's a good scripture for us. Some of us have all of us have painful stories. Make sure you hear me. But some of us have very painful stories. And you're still standing, you're still resilient, you're still moving forward, you're still living. But for a lot of us out there who've had very painful stories, who aren't working on this, you're living with anger, fear, you're mean, you're addicted, because you don't want to face the pain. Totally understood. But if you can figure out a way to face your pain, you can move forward. So if you're new in recovery, keep going, keep going. If you're further down the road in recovery, keep going, keep going. But enjoy your life. Live in the present. If you relapse, don't judge yourself. Just look and see what you're not doing right, why you've stopped some of your recovery actions. Recovery, though, is a process, but it's not an exhausting process in the sense of people look forward to sharing. People look forward to getting better, and their lives become so much better. So just take the conscious realization that you are not inadequate, but you are a little powerless, but you're not completely powerless. Remove anything that makes you continuously feel inadequate, such as controlling things, escaping, releasing behaviors, disconnection, faults or destructive expectations, relationships, all those things. You got to get them out of your life. I mean, I don't know how to say it to you. And I hope if any of you right now are in any kind of abusive situations, you must get yourself out of there. Look around, see what you can do. Who are some people that can help you? And this is the hard one. We have to remove the deep-rooted subconscious feelings of inadequacy formed in childhood from all the trauma, the abuse, the abandonment, childhood neglect, all those things which are deeply internalized in our lives. This can take years. And you know what? This is what's tough. It means changing who you as a person are. I mean, think about it. You have lived your life hating, avoiding, judging yourself. All these things. We're asking you to stop doing that and to see yourself as a lovable, valuable human being who has a healthy, happy, whole life. That does not equal what we feel like when we're in our addicted states. We always talk about and hear about having a rich, full, meaningful life. That's what we're after. the feelings of purpose, connection, love, faith, gratitude. Those are what we're after. So, there's things you can do, though. How about some minor little things? Make sure you take care of your hygiene. I know it sounds like crazy stuff, but this is the stuff that gets us. Get your place in order. If it's a wreck, if there's mayhem everywhere, get your stuff picked up. Get your house, your home in order. It will help you. Find ways to take care of at least a couple of things you need to take care of. Get stuff in order. Figure out who your friends are. Figure out who your friends are not. And hang with the ones that you know are your friends. We need regular social contact, but it needs to be healthy. And dysfunctional relationships are so destructive. We got to figure out how to get those out of there. Live with gratitude. Every day, make yourself write down some things you're grateful for. Do some form of random acts of kindness to someone else that isn't expecting anything or doesn't know you, or just needs to hear something. I always tell people, if you're looking for an easy random act of kindness, text someone in your life who's special to you and just reach out and say, hi, I was thinking of you. That is a random act of kindness. So we need to accept that we're flawed, that we'll make mistakes. We need to accept that God loves us and that we are not God, and thus we're not perfect. We need to accept that because even though we're not perfect, people will still love us. In fact, I'll be honest with you, people will love you more. We can do this. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard, but we can do this. So I hope this has been helpful today. Toxic shame is a very important conversation to have. It's not fun to think about it. But most of us, if we're in recovery, we have toxic shame. I think everybody has it. It's just how much. And it's just our chance to overcome that, to see ourselves as more than this flawed person that's mediocre, best, and never enough, no matter what we do. What happens if we just start feeling like, you know what? I got a rich, full, meaningful life. I feel good about what's in my life, and I've got a lot to be grateful for. Things to work on, but grateful too. So I hope this helped you. So again, we meet on Wednesdays and Fridays, 6:30, Walnut Grove Baptist Church, 7046 Cold Harbor Road here in Mechanicsville. Of course, we do these talks. Obviously, you wouldn't know if you weren't watching this. You would know that. If you ever want to reach out to me, email me at Craig at I'm sorry, I lost my. I have too many emails. csimpson@wgva.church. We'll try it one more time. csimpson@wgva.church. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're coming here and you know other people are hurting, invite them. We feed you. We had fried chicken and vegetables on Friday. Week 4, we had Chinese food from Peking. Week before that, we had tacos from Mexico. We literally feed you. We don't just toss out a frozen pizza or something. And we have childcare. So come, join us. The kids have a great time here. So look forward to hearing from you or seeing you, and I hope you all have a great week. Let's close with a prayer of serenity. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that Jesus will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever and the next. Amen. All right, well, thanks for joining us, and a little long-winded today, but I appreciate you, and keep on that journey. It's worth it.